Marcia, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Marcia, usually before I start these discussions, I do kind of a light background check. Let's call it that. I look up everything I can about my guest, and it seems like you're a very, very busy person. I mean, you've got a couple of companies that you started, so maybe just let me list them and you tell me what it's all about. You started a
Yeah.
company, SocialMD. I'm guessing it's your marketing agency 6 years ago. You
Yes.
have Women's Business Hub that you founded 3 years ago, and then
Yes.
Goodfluence, which I'm assuming it's a word of good influence and something you're
Yes.
doing to give back to the community, which I think is awesome. So tell me,
Yeah.
how do you manage all three? And is there number four coming as well?
Oh, I don't know if it's an ADHD mind or what it is, but um, so at the moment, I'm just reinvesting my time because what happens is that like my marketing company has always been the base, the bread and butter. But when I get excited on projects or if really great positive in initiatives like Goodfluence, because I do a lot of volunteer work and I get captivated by the stories and I want to do more. I mean, my purpose, my goal that I do feel is using my skills that I have to make a difference in the world. And that's my goal. But in the meantime, I need to make money to
Yeah.
sustain myself. So I think that's why I always get very interested in what I can do to get closer to that goal of actually working in something that makes a difference. So I would say at the moment, I'm refocusing on what I'm doing right now with my marketing agency and then the two initiatives. I'm going to actually be relaunching Women's Business Hub next year with another initiative under that umbrella where I'll be doing more again of the events monthly because with the Women's Business Hub, it actually is to support female entrepreneurs and give them more of the core pillars of business. So talking about topics like marketing, finance, grants, legal contracts. I found in the industry there was a lot of women organizations that are supporting females, but it was very fluffy. They would talk about things that really weren't giving them the meat of what they needed to learn. Like you don't see a group of guys getting together to talk about you know, I don't know how to say, talking about really fluffy topics that really weren't pertaining to lifting and elevating them for their goals next year. And I want it to be an option where we would have hard conversations and ask those difficult questions to really push those women to assess where they are and where they want to be. And that's why I started the Women's Business Hub.
So it's not just about women getting together and like
No.
it's about something really how to push each other to get into better positions, start our own companies. Uh, it's really about that entrepreneurial side of things.
Yeah, because really what happens with females, even naturally in the role, a lot of women put themselves last on their list of priorities. So everything gets caught up and taken care of besides them. And it's not that I push for them to change that priority, but I want to make sure that if they have a little bit of time in the day for them to focus on what they're passionate about, let's make it as productive as possible. Let's make sure that they're addressing the right things to elevate what their dreams are in entrepreneurship and have conversations that go beyond how I feel as a mom or, I'm feeling down today. It is very important to address those concerns, but there's so many groups that are doing it. I want it to be something different and educate more so.
Is it something you've seen throughout your career? I mean, you've had a great career, and we're going to talk about the marketing business and how you started this. But I just want to talk about this point that you're making about women entrepreneurs. Do you feel like over time you've seen women that could have done something but didn't have the support? Is that why you're doing this? Like, what's the
Yeah,
root?
that's what it is. Because a lot of women, they may start off a business from a passion, but they don't have the knowledge behind it to push it through the levels that they need to. There's a small percentage. They may get caught up with funding or loans, or even not even thinking about going for a loan because they don't feel worthy enough to take on that to help their business. So I have seen that. I've seen it like when I were doing the monthly events with women, I saw a lot of startups come through. And a lot of them, over 3 or 4 months, they disappeared because they couldn't juggle family 9 to 5 and a part-time business, or they went full time and they weren't making the money fast enough to sustain themselves, and they went back to a 9 to 5. But they really didn't set them up for success. So that's where I wanted them to come somewhere where the questions were being asked. Have you thought about marketing? Have you thought about your contracts? Did you think about getting a loan or finding funding? Those are the questions they need to address to make sure that they can advertise, they can promote themselves, they have the right circle to empower them, mentorship. Those are the questions they need answers to really set them up because all of us, a lot of people start off as a solopreneur when they start the business, but we need support to get us to where we need to go.
Yeah, it's not easy running a business.
No.
So many different hats you need to put on. But guess what, Marcia? You've been doing it for 7 years and the company is still running. So talk to me about that marketing agency. And you've been in the field for a long time. And
Yeah.
I wonder, like, maybe give me like very quickly, like why you decided to jump in and start your own and how the scene of marketing changed over time. Like, because you've been doing it for so long, I guess for yourself and then working for others. What's your take on the state of marketing today?
So I guess maybe I'll start from where I came from to where I
Yeah.
am today, right? So I started my career at Bell Canada, which is a telecommunication, an amazing company in it was the late 90s, early 2000s. Now, Bell Canada is different. When I started, they invested a lot into their employees, great training, empowering, and I stayed there for a while and had the opportunity to gain more knowledge. Then I ended up getting into print, Torstar, right? Metroland. And so that's when I got into the marketing side, the sales and marketing side of things. So starting off in print was probably one of the best places to actually start off because it is a legacy form of marketing. And I spent a few years there, but quickly identified that Metroland was not progressive as fast as they should be as times are changing with the internet. So then I ended up getting into Yahoo, and that's when it blew up for me in the sense of really diving deep in digital. So from Yahoo, my career spanned over many different businesses that were in the same industry, but they tackled a different aspect of marketing. So Yahoo would be display ads on a platform. I would get into mobile apps. Ventured into the mobile side of things. I got into app downloads, real estate marketing. So that was all the different companies that hovered through. The last company that I was at, a 2019, that was a layoff. After that layoff, I was in the industry for about 20 years. So I've seen a lot. There was in the industry is always a lot of layoffs. It's a really temperamental industry and it's not for the faint at heart. Every time your manager walks up to you, you're like, are they
This could
coming
be
to
it.
it? You get scared, right? So when the 2019, so in between my life before, I was previously married. So when I got laid off in on business before, I was dealing with a divorce at the same time, which was hard, extremely hard to be tackling that. And by the time my last company in 2019, I was with someone else and a supportive partner, which was extremely different. And he really nudged me into saying, you know what, you've been doing this for a few years. Why don't you think about doing it on your own? And I think that was a real difference for me as well, having that support behind me. Because again, the way that the market was at the time, I was getting tired with it. The last company that I worked for, I felt like even the ownership, I didn't have much confidence in them. So I took that plunge. I really gave myself the time of being on EI, unemployment insurance. And I said, if I can convert a client before my EI runs out, by the time my EI runs out, I will continue to go. So I gave myself, I don't know, it was 6 months I gave myself, but 2 months after I closed my first client. And that was through networking. That's how I did it because when I first started, I did not have budget to promote myself. But I am a very social person. I'm very knowledgeable in the industry and I'm very passionate about marketing. So when I went out and did the events, I closed my first client. So that's what got me to that point. It was the support. It was being in the industry and getting tired of that inconsistent drive of your career and leaving yourself open to the mercy of a business, of being a number. Because some of these companies, you're just a number and it's not personal. But when you're living your life and you've gone through different aspects and milestones, you start to realize what's important. And I think going through a divorce in the midst of my corporate career, I reassessed my drive, my purpose, and had different goals by then.
I usually tend to ask people at this point, what made you want to start the company? But for me, like after that response, it's super clear. I mean, you just wanted to work for yourself. I mean, it's been I'm not gonna say chaotic journey, but there's been ups and downs. You've learned a lot, but you wanted some stability after all this time. And you were right. I mean, after 2 decades in the industry, I guess you do have the experience. And you see people just right out of college starting their own businesses. So someone
Yeah.
who has decades of experience, yeah, I'd say you're qualified to have your own business. I'd say you have the knowledge to do it. And so once you decided to jump in, you got your first client, and that was it. That was the ball started rolling from there, or
Yeah, the ball started rolling. When I'm determined, I hustle. And so I started my family, a previous at a young age. So I started kids when I was 20. And so that childbearing years and having small children, my boys are much older. So when I started my business, I didn't have little children to look after. So that was a big space that I was able to actually satisfy in prioritizing the business. It was like a new baby for me. It was a new priority. So that was one of the privileges that I had at the point in my life that I launched the business, that I was able to go full. So meaning I was out a lot in the evening time. During the day, I acquired an office right away at a co-working space in Etobicoke. And that was one of the best things that I did for my career. I tell people all the time, there's an ideology that a fish only grows as big as their tank. So if you want to grow and you want to level up, you've got to surround yourself in a space that you can grow into. And a lot of people, they stay really small and they're struggling and they're trying to elevate. But one of my best decisions was getting into that co-working space because it wasn't just the space, it was the people I was meeting, it was other entrepreneurs, it was connection, it was referrals. And that was I really, really am happy with that first initial, pull the gun in the office. And then, after that, with the help of community, right, other entrepreneurs that wanted to collaborate, you know, it became very seamless the way that it was progressing. So I know the only times that I slow down is when I choose to slow down. If it's a family obligation and I'm like, hey, I got to pay attention to my family, I may not go out as much. But when I'm ready to hit a target, all it is how much effort I put in there. And
did you
it's done. Yeah.
did you feel like after a couple of years, you know, you had some kind of momentum, so it was time to start something else? You had the bandwidth because you were saying, you know what, I raised my kids, now I need another baby, a corporate baby. Now that
Yeah.
corporate baby is kind of matured, it's been running for a couple of years. Now I need another
Yeah.
thing. It seems like you
Yeah.
have this trend every couple of years, every time something stabilizes, you need something else to focus
I
on.
think, yeah, I agree. I agree because before I launched SocialMD, I was debating on launching a nonprofit organization. That was my passion. But I thought you should never launch a nonprofit if you need to make money right away, because that's something that is pure love and care. And I get it. So even though that's a passion of mine, at the time when I launched, I needed to make some income. So that's why I launched SocialMD, and it's been amazing. But it wasn't really the passion project behind it of like where I want to end up. So Social MD, I'm extremely passionate. I love working with businesses. I love leveling them up. But I think it's an engine for me to get to my purpose later on. So why I dabbled into the Women's Business Hub and then Goodfluence was really of me saying, okay, is it the time? Is it time for me to, I have a little bit of bandwidth. I have a great clientele that's being taken care of. Can I etch out a little bit of my time and shift it over, getting into more of the passion work? And that's why those two other projects arised.
Is it is it because you were supported during your tough years and someone was next to you telling you, you know what, you can start your own business? Do you want to give this feeling to other women as well? Is this kind of the driving force?
100%.
Yeah.
100%. Like I feel that it's not accidental of where I am today. It is 100% of the people I have around me. He's my husband. The support that he's given me empowered me in every level that and not everyone has that privilege because it is hard to launch a business and you're by yourself and that the only paycheck is you. That is hard. It's extremely hard. Um, but when you are that whole passion with the Women's Hub is that is it. If I might not be a spouse or a partner, but we can be a partner in community and show where we can find money or show how you can market. I would do workshops at every meeting to give them some little bit of information that they can take away to implement on their business. But the goal was to bring other experts, right? So I could handle marketing. I bring a lawyer to help them with contracts, bring grant writers to talk to them about grant writing. That was my whole goal is to give them a community of experts they can trust. Because in this industry, as a business owner, you're getting pitched at every single day of businesses telling you, oh, I can do this for you. You need this, you need that, and you don't know who to choose. So I really wanted to help them be able to kind of give them like a short list of people that I trusted that I believe it was always had their best interest. And that's really what it is. Trusting the partnerships and people around you.
So how many women have you talked to or helped, or how many women are there?
So when I first started, the very first month, because so I grew up in Toronto. My career was in Toronto, and then I moved 2021 to Hamilton.
Mm.
So it's a brand new city that I didn't know much of. So I really threw myself and got myself into really getting to know the city. So what I did was when I launched Women's Business Hub, the first meeting, I think it was 20 women showed up. The next one, we had about 35. By month three, I had about 160 women registering to come out to our events. And probably 70 women were showing up consistently a month. So that to me, it showed that there's definitely a need, even though there is a lot of organizations for support. But a lot of them felt that came out really appreciate the fact of the teaching part because I really wanted that if they're going to take time away from their kids, away from their family, let's make sure you get something for that time. And I would teach marketing. So I would definitely say, yeah, that's really where it kind of rounded up in the sense of, the amount of women that I end up, it's hard to quantify, but like, from our social media, like followers, we have, maybe 1,500. Our email list is about 1,500 email subscribers. But going through it's so funny. Last month I had coffee with a woman that came out to the events, and I told her, she shared with me how important or how life-changing it was when she came out to our events. And it wasn't just like a very passing comment. She went into detail of how much she appreciated what she got. And it kind of just made me, I said, you know what? That one comment or one feeling of helping her navigate her decisions or pushing her forward with her business, it meant so much to me. And that's why we try to do these things, is to make a difference on the earth with human beings. So I probably had the privilege of meeting, I would say over 1,000 women over the last few years with the Women's Hub.
That's amazing. I mean, that really is. I was telling you before we started the recording, I when I first moved here to Montreal, like people introduced me to a couple of people that were doing what I was doing, and it helped me so much because I could find people who really understood what I'm going through, who went through what I'm going through, and that changes everything. So I feel like
Yeah.
what you're doing with those women is super important because usually people are just stuck in their own bubbles and they're like, let me try to figure things out. But just one
Yes.
person that comes in and is like, you know what, there's a better way, or there's people
Yeah,
that can support you. That changes everything.
it does. Yep, I agree 100%.
So, Marcia, let me end with this. Goodfluence. So we talked about everything you've been doing with women. You're launching again soon. But what's Goodfluence? That's your most recent baby.
Yes. So, um, in the few years that I've come out to Hamilton, and I've joined some boards for nonprofits. So I'm on the United Way Hamilton Halton Women's United Board. I have volunteered in different aspects in the community. I'm a mentor at McMaster. So being hovering around the space and going out and hearing and volunteering, I started to see a need of what's happening. So the nonprofit world, with such a beautiful aspect of what these people actually do, is suffering right now. They're facing so many challenges. And the problem is that a lot of these agencies that are working don't have enough people to help them. So their bandwidth is stretched so far. So when you have a founder of maybe a nonprofit that has to do everything, they don't get to do everything at 100%. So they're doing a little bit of social media and a little bit of this and a little bit of that, but it's not to the potential it should be. Goodfluence it really is a social media advocacy for nonprofits and corporation. And really what it is to guide and help nonprofits elevate their messaging. So for me, I have young nieces and nephews, and I ask them questions. Do you know about United Way? Do you know about companies like, UNICEF? And I would mention a few charities. They're like, no, I don't know anything about it. And I'm like, that's really sad because as their head is down on the phone, the content that they're taking in, none of it is much really that good. And the really great stories that need to be shared are not getting served up on the algorithm because they're just putting out content just to say that content's out there. So really what I want to do is help them understanding the industry doesn't have much of a budget is how do we can come together as a collective and with this maybe support of corporate sponsoring that we can come together to get the word out there, to get kids to come out and get involved in philanthropy. Because the thing is that there is an increase of depression among the next generation. And I do believe that the device, is pulling them down that kind of funnel. But I do believe that if they can get better content and get involved in community and the village mentality and support or get out there, it can help a little bit and get their priorities different on what they're facing right now. So that's the reason why I started Goodfluence is really to get the word out, to let people know more than just a commercial saying we need help. Because that's really the problem with the nonprofit industry is that most of the time when you interact with them, they're either at a grocery store asking for support or you bump into them on the streets of Montreal. People are like, hey, would you like to support? And you would have no clue about them. So what's the drive to really donate anything if you have no backing or any storytelling about what they do, the amazing work, and they need to do better at getting their story out so that by the time you actually are asked to help, you've already formulated your support if you want to support them or not. So that's where Goodfluence has come and materialized.
That's amazing. Marcia, I like to do these things to, it's not just about what you've done, it's also about the mindset, the personality. And I
Yeah.
think it's very clear for anyone who's gonna watch this that you have this fire and it keeps going on and on and on. It's like project after project, following your passion. I love this. I think it's amazing. Thanks so much for sharing your story, and thanks so much for doing this.
Thank you. I appreciate it. And I'm really happy that you reached out and I have a platform to share. Thank you.